There is one additional type of table that you might find useful in your database that might not have turned up in your research, but don't worry, they're actually very simple to create. These tables are often referred to as lookup tables or validation tables and help support the business rules that you established while gathering the requirements for the system. They also make sure that the data is entered consistently. Essentially, the idea is that there will be many cases when a valid input in one field will come from a finite list of acceptable values. For instance, in a table that stores customer shipping addresses, there will only be a small list of countries that we'll serve. Or when typing in a 2-letter state abbreviation, we want to make sure that it's actually entered correctly and represents a real state, and not just some random 2-letter code. These types of lookup tables typically get implemented as a drop-down list in the final user interface, where you make a selection rather than typing a value. The key here is that these values aren't coming from some other table in our database already. For instance, there's obviously going to be specific products that your customers can purchase, but those selections are probably coming from a products table that you've already defined. Here, we're looking for any additional fields that should have their own list of valid entries. If we have these sorts of situations in our database, then we can create a series of small lookup tables that simply store the valid choices. Here we have a table storing information on our company's employees. One of our attribute fields will be used to store the department the employee is assigned to. This is a finite list of departments. We definitely don't want anyone just making up a new department on the fly. This is a perfect opportunity to constrain the data that gets entered into the database using a lookup table. We'll do this by creating a new table that just has a single column called department. In this table will be records for each of the departments we want our employees assigned to. This table will get related back to the original employees table in a one-to-many relationship between the department names in the lookup table and the corresponding field in the employees table. The advantage to this is that as the company grows, we can simply add a new record to the departments table, such as product development, and immediately start assigning employees to that new department. The downside to this approach is that you have one additional, albeit small, data table in your database that you need to keep track of. We'll see another approach to solving the same problem when we talk about integrity constraints later on in the course. So go ahead and look through your research notes and see if having any of these types of lookup tables would be useful in the design of your database. Look for any fields that will only have a small selection of valid entry values and think about adding a lookup table to your data model.